What is going on, everybody? It's the Off the Mic Sports Network here, a live, yes, you heard it, live edition of Off the Top Rope. I'm Mike Mayer. Appreciate y'all jumping on here for an AEW Dynamite post show. I was debating about doing this, but my goodness, there was a lot about this show. Like, look, it was boring. It was lifeless. The crowd was better than previous weeks. I mean, the crowd in certain terms of bulk was better than previous weeks. Let's get that out of the way. 8,000 people at the Hydro in Scotland. Great crowd. They were very lively. That's awesome to see that. The European audience definitely, gets after their wrestling, no matter what company it is. And I've heard 17,000 North, and depending on if they add more seats, they might break the O2 in London record, which is held by Money in the Bank a couple of years ago. So always possibility. And, listen, admittedly, a pretty decent card for Sunday at Forbidden Door. But as I said in the description and I said in the title, this company is lifeless and it's kind of directionless and also just illogical. Just illogical. Let me give you guys an example here. And, I'll let some of you guys just jump on here and, sort of, get going, get going in the comments and whatnot. So MJF, who I like, love Max. I think he's one of the best characters they have. Seth, here's the thing. It's very clear Hangman's winning. It's very clear that Hangman is winning based off of that result. Now, does MJF somehow, use the opportunity after the fact? That's left to be open. But I think in the initial match at the pay-per-view, I think that, MJF is going to lose to Hangman Adam Page, and he's going to keep the contract. I did not like how this was booked. I've kind of liked, the way that they made. I mean, yeah, they kind of, hamstrung MJF a little bit last week, but then at the end of the show, they gave him some of his heat back with the attack on the car. But so they go to extreme lengths here to undo the booking that they did last week, where MJF was going to use his Casino Gauntlet privilege to get the contract, to get the championship match that he's getting at Forbidden Door. Because let's face it, Hangman's got no challengers. So we use Mark Briscoe, and I love Mark Briscoe. I think it's great that he's being featured. But we're using Mark Briscoe as a pawn in this whole scheme. You bring in Ricochet and the Gates of Agony to help out in this thing. Like basically accessories and trying to commit arson and light Mark Briscoe on fire. And some people will say this is a callback to, the whole feud and a lot of, Hangman's checkered past with, lighting Swerve's childhood home on fire last year in the build to their lights out steel cage match at All Out. But here's the problem. So MJF last week, after just openly saying, I'm using my Casino Gauntlet privilege. And let's be real. I know some people are complaining on the internet. You can't unsign a contract. He never signed it. But that being said, why even go to the lengths to say, hey, I'm executing the contract, and then, hey, you threaten to light Mark Briscoe on fire, basically say, hey, can't be counted out, no disqualifications, and you have to let me keep my contract. We knew where this was going. Hangman agrees to it, and it basically undoes everything that you did last week. Also, separate from that, the other big issue that I have with this whole situation is Athena. If you guys think that AEW is doing right by Athena, you have not watched AEW television for the last month or so. Athena is very clearly losing and going back to Ring of Honor. That's what's happening here. And here's why I say that. Athena has a clean pinfall win in a tag team match a few weeks ago against Toni Storm. And then Toni Storm was just laying there, could have cashed in the contract, didn't even do it then. So Athena has a clean pinfall win over the champion, yet she's executing her contract, and she has to use it, which I don't understand whatsoever. because MJF goes and commits or tries to go and commit arson and light a man on fire. Yet that's grounds for him because he's an evil heel and he can get out of using his privilege. So why does Athena have to use it? Because you have no plans for her. That's what's going on here. Athena is clearly just another notch on the belt. They're giving her this privilege because they wanted to do something. They wanted to give her a moment in Texas because they know they screwed that up. And, you know, here's what they have. They have zero plan for Athena. Athena is not winning the championship from Toni Storm at Forbidden Door. That's not happening. And I think it is completely and utterly ridiculous that they walked into this week with both Casino Gauntlet winners potentially cashing in their privilege. But you had to see something was going to come out of this. And MJF gets out of it by threatening to light Mark Briscoe on fire. Yet Athena, who has more grounds to be a championship contender than Max does, even though the credentials that Max has in his entire career. Athena has pinned the champion. She should get a championship match already and not have to use the contract. Like, what in the world, man? That drove me freaking insane. Like, I couldn't believe that they went that route. I'm not surprised because, hey, it would have been so stupid to have Max use that contract in the first place. But they have no male challengers for Hangman Adam Page. They have zero. Will Ospreay, and we'll get to Will Ospreay because there's a whole thing there that's a problem. Darby Allin's with Mox. Mox is still on television. They're doing a lights out steel cage. Kenny Omega's in that match. We haven't seen Kenny Omega. The first time we're going to see him is in London on Sunday. There's just no challengers. Swerve is challenging for the Unified Championship. We didn't even see him on this show. Some build they have for that. Like, this show, man, for a go-home show, you take out the crowd. This was a paint-by-number show. There was great wrestling. The tag team, the champion, or not the championship, the finals of the tag team tournament was a great match with a shit ending. A great match. Brody King and Brodito taking on FTR, and you know we get a non-finish. We get a 30-minute time limit draw in a tournament final. Like, seriously, it's just I don't get, this company just does not make sense. And I told you a couple of reasons why. So let's actually get to some comments. If you guys are jumping in here late, thanks so much for jumping on here with me. This is Off the Top Rope. I'm Mike Mayer. For those of you new to the channel, recommend this to your friends if they love wrestling content. Again, I'm not trying to be JD from New York or anything like that. I'm just me. I'm just honest. I'm real. A lot of people think I hate AEW. Listen, I nitpick at AEW, and it's very easy to pick at AEW because, again, that being said, the only real difference between AEW and WWE right now is WWE's making money. WWE storylines have been pretty illogical too this year. So let's not get that twisted. All right. So in the chat, ESPN cable channel. So will I be able to watch WWE PLEs, or do you need the app? You're going to need the app because I think some of the major shows will be on linear television, which is the main ESPN channel. I have ESPN Plus because I'm a sports fan. And that if you have ESPN Plus, then you convert it. I think if you do have the ESPN cable channel and you are subscribed to a cable provider, I have YouTube TV. I cut the cord, but I do believe that you will be able to get access to that with your cable credentials. I think, as far as I know, you will not have to pay the $29.99. But that is a big story that we'll have to get to on the channel. Big announcement from WWE is they are in fact going head to head against All Out on September 20th, literally a month to the day. So a month out, they're going to start selling tickets, I think, tomorrow. So it's going to be in Indianapolis, and it's going to be the first show that they do on ESPN, and every premium live event main roster is going to be on ESPN moving forward. Peacock is no more after Clash in Paris. You only have it for the NXT shows and for Saturday night's main event. So hopefully that answers everybody's question on that. Okay, so okay, let's actually go back to the beginning here. So of the show here, more illogical natures of booking. Will Ospreay. So Will Ospreay has been very open. Will Ospreay has gathered. I appreciate that Will Ospreay, is very real and very raw, and he wants to, perform in front of his home fans. But he basically acknowledged publicly that he's not medically cleared. Now, whether and the fact that he's been so open talking about his conditions, talking about his C4 and all these discs in his neck, and he made it, and he talked about going under the knife. It sounds like this guy is ready to go into surgery, and he's probably going to get neck surgery after Sunday's match. So my question is, why in the fuck is this guy in a lights out steel cage match with 9 other people? Why the fuck is this guy in a match with 9 other people? It makes no logical sense because you literally shoehorned him in last week. This feud has been about Darby Allin and John Moxley. That's what this feud's been about. And you don't have a plan for them, and you want to delay this as long as you can. So you're throwing a bunch of dudes into a steel cage for no reason whatsoever other than to just do some crazy shit. And Will Ospreay, who sounds like his neck is about a stack of dimes right now, and you are playing with fire. And making this unsanctioned doesn't make it any better. The fact that Will Ospreay was given a live microphone and openly talked about his condition, and I don't think you're talking about all these ligaments and these discs and everything in your body and talking about going under the knife. And one thing about Will Ospreay, that guy comes across as really real and authentic. He may not be the greatest or, best promo, but one thing I appreciate about him is he sounds like himself. He's not playing a character. Like, he's definitely, the bruv gets played up a lot, but still, he sounds like he's talking like Will Ospreay on and off camera. So I don't think he's bullshitting anybody. I think he's legitimately hurt, which raises the question, why the fuck is he in this match? Because he wants to compete in London. At some point, if you're Tony Khan, you've got to say, Will, you are way too valuable to this company long-term to put yourself into a match, let alone a lights-out steel cage match. I don't care if it's London or not. You should not be competing in that match. So first of all, whoever's idea was to give him a live microphone and actually talk about his condition like he actually had a hope in hell, and then even bringing up, bringing up, I'm going to have to go get surgery and, all this other stuff. What? Why is this match happening? Listen, I do think Sunday will be the last time we see Will Ospreay in 2025. He's going out with a bang. Some people will say to me, well, Mike, they let Cody Rhodes compete with a torn pec. Guys, literally, Will Ospreay's close to breaking his neck, or he might be on the verge of breaking his neck. Necks are not something to play with. You could be paralyzed if you do something wrong. Cody Rhodes, when he has his pec torn off the bone, there was no more way to further damage it. It was all about pain tolerance. So those comparisons are not like putting Will Ospreay in a match at Forbidden Door with the condition that he is in, and then putting him also in a lights out steel cage match, not just by himself, with 9 other people. We don't even know how this functionally is going to work. That's okay when the story doesn't even need him just because he wants to compete in London. At some point, you have to put guardrails up for your talent, for God's sake. I don't get why Tony Khan has to be so much of a mark and can't be a boss for once in his life. It's just, holy fucking shit, man. It's just, I don't get it, man. I don't think I think this is Will Ospreay's last match for the year. He'll be out, and he'll probably, listen, he's probably going to win the Owen next year. We'll see how long he's out, but who's to say? Neck injuries, we've already seen it. Kevin Owens, we saw what happened with Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens is out potentially for a long period of time and may never wrestle again. So I have no fucking idea. Okay. PHX, you asked about the triple threat for the tag team titles. Listen, the match itself between Brodito and FTR was unbelievable. all four of those guys are awesome. Dax is kind of an asshole on Twitter. Cash is kind of an asshole in real life because he's got a rap sheet. And you know, I love Brody King, Van Nuys, Valley Boys got to stick together, and Bandito's fucking awesome. I love Bandito. I don't know why we're using the Ring of Honor champion in a tag team feud, but you know, hey, Bandito gets to wrestle and he's fucking great. This match was great. I knew the second that they started yelling out time cues that this was going to go to a time limit draw. Because if you think about it, and I thought about this, and I'll give credit to JD for pointing this out because I didn't even think about it in the moment. But then JD from New York, who's going live right now, and I'm like, I'm not trying to counter program him whatsoever. Like you said, I'm just doing my own live show. I understand that he's got a bigger following. So it's very clear what's going on here. Hurt Syndicate is probably losing the championships in London, but they don't want to lose to FTR. It's been reported by Fightful. It's been reported by numbers of people. They've got some level of creative influence or control. They don't want to lose to FTR. So they're putting Brodito in that match, and they ran a time limit draw in a tournament final. And that's where I have a problem. You guys have had this weeks-long tournament going out only for you not to have a definitive winner. That's dumb, in my opinion. To me, that's dumb. Like, why spend weeks of television because you don't want to tell a compelling story only to not have a definitive winner? And the only reason that I can come up with is exactly what JD has been on, and you know, he gets shit from it, but I totally see what he is. Like, listen, there are too many people in this company that have creative influence. Yes, I understand that people like Sean Ross Sapp are pointing out it has to be contractual, but when you have a booker or you have a boss in Tony Khan who literally doesn't tell anybody no, then, you know, it's, but yeah, at the same time, listen, the bad booking also starts with, you know, the Hurt Syndicate. They've made this whole tag division look ridiculous. I love Bobby Lashley. I love Shelton Benjamin. I think MVP is great. But they have walked into AEW as the Hurt Syndicate, and they've run roughshod through this tag division to the point where this tag division is beyond repair. Yeah, and it's like, you know, you reserve the right to say no, but at the same time, you can't be giving wrestlers privileges to say who and who they don't want to lose to. At the end of the day, this is all on Tony Khan because he's the one who has the authority to tell these people, hey, this is happening, this is happening. And yet, for some reason, like, it keeps getting to these type of points. The only reason that I can even think of what's going on here is that the Hurt Syndicate did not want to lose to FTR. So FTR was clearly like, everybody knew that FTR, it seemed like that was the direction that we're going to go in. I thought, hey, Brodito had a really compelling argument just because, listen, FTR doesn't need to win the championships, but, you know, if you're going to build this whole tournament around an underdog team and then, you know, an established team, and they've already established, you know, FTR and the Hurt Syndicate kind of have a little bit of a plant there with Adam Copeland hiring the Hurt Syndicate to go hurt FTR. But, you know, it's a really odd situation. And I didn't like how that whole thing played out, man. Like, I was not a fan of, I was not a fan of how this whole thing played out in real time with, you know, FTR. And, you know, there was a bunch of crazy spots at the end where they, like, literally, like, in the last minute, they weren't even trying to get in the ring. They weren't even trying to get in the ring. Brody King, and they were trying to play it off because he got hit with a pipe early in the match. He was bleeding a lot. There was a lot of blood in this match. They weren't even trying to get a pinfall in the last minute. I knew that this was going to a time limit draw. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, it's one thing to, like, you know, do it in a conventional match, but a tournament final where you have been building for weeks to try and determine who's going to face the champions. And the only reason you came to this conclusion is because the Hurt Syndicate has creative control and they have the ability to, you know, determine who they're going to face, and they don't want to lose to FTR. That has been, like, you guys can tell me that I'm lying. That is public knowledge. That is not from, like, you know, people who bag on JD. Sean Ross Sapp literally wrote that for Fightful Select and said they did not want to lose to FTR at all in Texas. They did not want to lose to them. That is out there. That is public knowledge. So you can tell me that I'm full of shit, but that's out there. That's actual factual information. So, like I said, I like these guys. They've just got way too much power. Who does that fall on? That falls on Tony Khan. And it leads to a logical booking. It leads to really illogical booking, and it leads to some of these nonsensical decisions that lead to, real gaps in logic. Like I said it off the top of the show, one of the things that bothered me, MJF. I get it. He's one of the best guys you have in the company. He should be challenging for the world championship. He also has a casino gauntlet privilege, but he said he was going to use it. And I understand he's a heel, but he went back on it because he agreed to a deal with Hangman Adam Page. You made your champion look weak after the champion made your heel challenger look weak, and you made them both look bad throughout this whole thing. But now Hangman goes back on his word, MJF goes back on his word. It's just this really confusing thing, and all because of arson for Mark Briscoe. Yet Athena, Women's World Championship challenger, same privilege, doing the same thing, has pinned the champion, yet she can't get a straight wrestling match without having to use her contract. If that's not an indication of what AEW thinks of their women and thinks of Athena, I don't know what you guys are watching. I would be stunned, shocked if Athena beats Toni Storm on Sunday. Athena went home in the last moments of this show and pinned Alex Windsor. By the way, they made Alex Windsor look like a blithering idiot because there was a tag in the match and they just let her go to this whole thing and she's just standing around, and then she gets hit with the Eclipse, the O-face, whatever they call it now. And Athena, usually when you are standing tall on the go-home show, Athena's not winning. And she's going to go right back to Ring of Honor. She's going to face Mina Shirakawa. And she's going to get to 1,000 days as Ring of Honor champion, and she's just going to be drowned back on there. We went so quickly to this match, and now we're blowing through it, and we've made Athena look so freaking stupid in the 6 or so weeks to build to this. She immediately targets Toni Storm. She says she's going to execute her contract. She pins the champion. Then after the pinfall, everybody's incapacitated. She literally could have cashed it in right then and there. And I don't get it. Ace, great point here with Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley beat Swerve Strickland in Full Gear last year. Never went back to that feud because Bobby didn't want to lose to him. Again, this is the problem. This is the problem that you run into when you give wrestlers authority over their character and their creative. Like, that is the draw of going to AEW, is you get more influence and you get more creative control, even if it's not contractual, but it leads to nonsense that has led to this company just not making sense. And then when you have an incompetent booker and you have an incompetent boss who doesn't have any authority to do something, and it's just, I don't understand it, man. Like, this whole show's a mess. And it's not for a lack of trying, from the talent's perspective. Like, the talent, hey, they're trying their best. It's just like they're trying to go out there and give us an entertaining show from a wrestling perspective, but it's just illogical. It's lifeless, and it feels like a popcorn flick. I've been saying this for weeks, guys. Those of you who have been riding and dying with me from the beginning, you know how it goes, man. Like, this company just really does not try hard enough to tell compelling stories anymore. I mean, listen, they got on television. They weren't going to get booked any better. That's the reality of the situation with MVP Lashley and Shelton Benjamin. But Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin's been a career tag team guy, but these guys look better. Yeah, there's that. Good thing you brought that up, Seth. So Kill Switch, Luchasaurus is back. That's awesome. If you guys have been paying attention, that guy's had almost like a near-death experience. He was hospitalized. He had some really scary health stuff going on. Basically was gone for a year. It's great to see him back. It really is great to see. And, on some level, even though they kind of rushed to this whole Christian and Cope reunion, and they kind of played it off a little bit like it's a reluctant alliance, but but they rushed to like, Adam Copeland being so accepting of his friend again. Um, Not so necessarily sure why Nick Wayne was pulled from this match if he is really hurt, because I know the whole kayfabe thing, everybody bringing up Seth Rollins. Um, maybe they pulled Nick Wayne. Maybe they pulled Nick Wayne from this because they didn't want him involved in this, and they get to the Christian and Nick Wayne match at some other point down the line, because they kind of did this booking in reverse to get to this. But I like that Luchasaurus is back in the mix because it makes sense. Luchasaurus was pushed around by Christian. He was wronged by Christian for a long time. He's been tied to Christian virtually for Christian's entire time in AEW. So it makes a lot of sense. And a lot of people were pointing out in the vignette that, led to Luchasaurus's return, that it might have been Jack Perry who was reviving Luchasaurus from his health issues. And if that's the case, listen, I don't have a lot of faith in Tony Khan to tell compelling stories, but if Jack Perry is aligned with the matriarchy here, and you have Jack Perry, Kip Sabian, Nick Wayne, and Luchasaurus, that's a pretty and Mother Wayne, that's a pretty damn good faction that I could potentially get behind. Listen, Jack Perry's kind of a jackass, but there's story there with Christian. There's story there. There's potential story there with Adam Copeland. Adam Copeland's got story with Luchasaurus and obviously now tied in with Kip Sabian. And hell, you throw FTR in there. There's something potentially there. I know they've run to a couple of conclusions, like, with the Cope and Christian reunion. The OG, you think, I don't know if they're going to be able to do that if it's licensed, but listen, I just want to see a 5-second pose. I don't know about you guys. I just want to see a 5-second pose at some point. Listen, Edge and Christian are one of the great tag teams of all time. And I like that Christian kept his character of being an asshole. I don't know how much longer they're going to keep it up for, because maybe when they get to Toronto, that's where you get the full-on acceptance, where you get that. I still think that they rushed to, doing the hug and, doing this match. But I think one of the logical things, one of the logical things that they did here, I actually like the way that they brought Luchasaurus back. I don't know if this was their plan or if Nick Wayne was actually hurt and it necessitated this. Either way, it does make some sense. This was one of the more logical things that actually made sense. It's funny that you bring up Miro Rusev. That was hindsight's 2020. That was a horrible way to bring in Miro in AEW. I understand he went off and became the Redeemer and then they didn't book him, but to be the best man for Kip Sabian, like I never had a problem with Kip Sabian. Fine wrestler. He was I think he was in one of the first AEW matches against Sammy Guevara. Talk about another guy who's got go away heat. Kip Sabian's fine. Like, I don't hate him. He's just like a lot of other guys in this company. He's just there. Like it's not, he's not anything special. He doesn't really do anything to stand out. He's just another one of these work rate guys who goes out there, is kind of a tinier guy, goes out there and has better stamina, and you can produce a quality wrestling match. That's it. But that's the problem with this company is like all these guys, they're work rate dudes. There's not enough big guys getting pushed. I don't know if celeb quotes and whatever is in here, because I know he's begging for them to do like a super heavyweight division. Like they're not even doing a super heavyweight division in WWE. So, yeah, but listen, a lot of these guys don't add anything to stories. There's not a lot of storytellers in this company. There's a lot of wrestlers, which is fine, but there's not a lot of storytellers. Hangman at the top of the card, one of the best storytellers they have. MJF, fucking fantastic. But they've kind of botched this feud with the two of them. That's one of their go-to feuds of all time. But in terms of Luchasaurus, one for the man, Austin. I think somebody said his real name in the chat. I'm happy. I'm happy for him. It's great to see him back. He looks in phenomenal shape. And I think there's potential to whatever they're doing here with the matriarchy. Somebody's asking about WrestlePalooza. Okay, let's get to this. Because I've kind of run through the cliff notes of, and I can kind of run through the matches itself in a bit here. the name itself's kind of ridiculous. Let's just call it what it is. It's ridiculous. I get why they're doing it. It's a callback to an ECW pay-per-view, and I think Tony Khan's a big ECW mark, so I think that's a giant middle finger to Tony Khan, on top of the fact that, hey, they're doing it on the same day as All Out, and they're doing it on ESPN. So it's a ridiculous name. Listen, guys, Great Balls of Fire happened 8 years ago, okay? You guys remember Great Balls of Fire? How ridiculous that name was? Vince McMahon came up with that just because of the Jerry Lewis. Carly, if you could help me, is that the Jerry Lewis song, Great Balls of Fire? I have no idea. Okay, well, it's, okay. I'm talking to my sister here in the front in the peanut gallery, who you guys know from my live streams, but I think it's a Jerry Lewis song or something like that. Jerry Lee Lewis. Thank you. So, and so Vince McMahon thought, hey, it's a great idea. And it was at least with WrestlePalooza, this was an ECW show, and this is a callback to an old show. It's a ridiculous name. Listen, I thought Bad Blood, I thought Over the Limit, I thought, Fastlane, one of these other, secondary pay-per-view names would have been fine if they would have gone that way. Bad Blood, I think, was a great idea, and it was a great show last year that they had in Atlanta. I thought Bad Blood would have been fine. I think some of this is just motivated from the fact that, hey, they want to stick it to Tony Khan in any way possible. He's a big ECW mark. It's a callback to an old ECW show. That being said, there's going to be a lot of attention on that show because the reports are that's where the Brock Lesnar-John Cena match is going to happen. It's going to be the first show on ESPN, so there's going to be a lot of curiosity about that. A lot of mainstream coverage coming out of that, obviously, because it's going to be the first ESPN show. So ESPN's obviously going to give it a ton of publicity and a ton of connection to set up the show. It's going to be in Indianapolis, so Pat McAfee's going to help promote that, even though he hasn't been on television recently. So I don't, listen, people who are going to watch All Out are going to watch All Out. But definitely the social media conversation is going to go towards WrestlePalooza and WWE. I do agree that WrestlePalooza sounds more like an NXT show because they've been calling back Halloween Havoc and all these other names, Great American Bash. It makes more sense. I think they should have gone with Bad Blood, or they should have gone, hell, if you want to bring in your house, I know they've done that. So yeah, Brock and Cena in Hell in a Cell actually would be some sort of argument, but it would be kind of sort of thrown together. But, at the same time, they don't really give a shit about storylines. They're about creating moments. Yeah, I think that Brock and Cena Hell in a Cell could be a thing. And then you're going to probably get Drew McIntyre and Cody Rhodes, because Cody Rhodes is going to be off television, at least because he's been off television filming Street Fighter. So, and Roman's going to go film his role once he gets done, because that was announced for Paris, him and Bronson Reed at Clash in Paris. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go with this. Anyway, super chats are open, everybody. Best way to support the show, best way to support the channel if you got any questions. Lively group here. Thanks, everybody. Always get a lot more action on these AEW shows. WWE is kind of boring, but they're making money. AEW just is kind of spectacularly bad with some of the stuff that they do. So let's actually get through the show a little bit. So yeah, like I said, the Ospreay promo. Listen, I don't understand this at all. I don't get this with Ospreay competing in this match. The only thing that they're doing is hey, we're going to put you in a match in your home country, and then you get to go out swinging, and then he's going to go under the knife, and he's going to go get surgery, and who knows when he's going to come back. So listen, it's unsanctioned, so they're trying to protect themselves, but even if they say it's unsanctioned, they're still allowing this match to happen. AEW is ultimately responsible for what Will Ospreay does to himself. So I hope that Will Ospreay gets out of that match clean. Because if he ends up paralyzed or ends up, significantly injured or doing more damage to his neck, that's on him. And that's on Tony Khan, too, for letting it happen. And that's embarrassing that they've allowed it to get to this point. And to also compound it by, putting this guy in the ring and basically, compounding it by, just throwing, a bunch of other people. He did have a Wrestle Kingdom match. Listen, he's obviously got ties. And, that run-in was, okay, so the other thing that we need to talk about, I have the utmost respect for Hiroshi Tanahashi and everything that he's meant to the sport of professional wrestling, to New Japan, him being the thing. I saw him come out, and first of all, he's an older guy. Listen, I'm going to let it go because, listen, he's up there in age. He's been competing forever. Didn't look in great physical condition, and he was laboring to the ring for the start of this match that came out of the whole, Jon Moxley and Will Ospreay confrontation that led to the trios match to start off the show, where Tanahashi was teaming with Jet Speed to take on the Death Riders. And man, listen, it was a rough, Tanahashi still did some good moves, but man, he was having a tough time moving around, and you're expecting him to go into a lights out steel cage match when he has no ties whatsoever into it. Holy shit, this was bad. Listen, I didn't really care much about this match. I don't get what they're doing with Will Ospreay. Tanahashi ends up hitting the high five flow, his finish for the win. This was 11 minutes of nothing. There was a bunch of run-ins during the course of this match where, you had the War Dogs come in. You had, so the Bullet Club War Dogs. You had Gabe Kidd come in. You had the Death Riders come in. You had the Ops come in. You had Darby Allin, who was in a body bag. This was overbooked to fuck, and it's not. I'm not surprised. This is what they do. I mean, it just was all over the place. I mean, you had the prototypical Darby Allin spot to jump off the railing in the hydro and do a coffin drop because he's fucking crazy and he's probably going to do something crazy. And separately from that, they just give Darby Allin the license to just do whatever he wants to himself. And so if he ends up fucking killing himself, I mean, I've seen Darby Allin go through fucking glass and bleed profusely all over the place and walk away from it. Guy climbed Mount Everest, so at least he may know the tolerance of his body, but I still think at some point people have to come in and know their limits. And when Will Ospreay is competing in this match and Tanahashi, who literally can barely move, is in this match, it's just ridiculous. Listen, Ace, you have made a total, and this is a great point because we're talking about the Ace, Tanahashi. This is Hiroshi Tanahashi. This might be the last match that he does for AEW. I think part of the reason why they put him in this match is because, hey, there's multiple people they can protect him, and I don't think they can put him in a match with Shibata. Tanahashi can barely move. So, but at the same time, put him in a trios match or something like that. Or, but don't put him in a 5-on-5 cage match when he has no reliance on it whatsoever. This is great. Thank you for bringing this up, Seth. Happy 4-year anniversary to the return to professional wrestling and the debut of one Philip Jack Brooks, CM Punk in AEW. A day that a lot of AEW fans are trying to rewrite history about. If you want to tell me that you're an AEW fan and you dread the day that CM Punk came back to AEW, go back 4 years ago and tell me how excited you were. That was one of the great days in professional wrestling history in my eyes. What happened after that and the fact that he was gone 2 years later, that's on Tony Khan. That's also on CM Punk. It's been 4 years, which is amazing. Probably the most watched episode of Rampage ever. That show doesn't exist anymore. That was the second episode of Rampage. That show doesn't exist anymore. So that return changed wrestling because at that point we were like, AEW's kind of cooking, and they were cooking for most of 2021 and early 2022. And then the wheels started to fall off when Punk won the title, got hurt, came back, and then all the other shit that happened with Hangman and, the Bucks, and then they tried to bring him back again. Listen, whatever happened, yeah, and that's a great point too. They sold, guys, I don't know how many people are American in this chat. The United Center is one of the biggest buildings in North America. WWE doesn't do shows at the United Center. It's the house that Michael Jordan built. 15,000 people bought tickets to that show on the mere possibility that CM Punk was going to show up. For 1 hour. For 1 hour of television. 1 hour of live television. At 9 o'clock local time. This was 10 o'clock Eastern. 9 o'clock Central time. So 9 o'clock on a Friday night, 15,000 people filled up a basketball arena occupied by the NBA Chicago Bulls and the NHL Chicago Blackhawks. That is one of the biggest moments in professional wrestling history. So if you're an AEW fan and you're trying to rewrite history about how that match meant nothing, I think it's either the United Center or the Greensboro Coliseum, which they've also done a great. They did Sting's last match there. It's either that or the Greensboro Coliseum are the biggest buildings in North America. But the fact is, they filled up that building on a mere rumor that CM Punk. So if you're one of these AEW schmucks who likes to give me a hard time about praising and ball washing CM Punk is a big reason why that company drew. It's also one of the big reasons why that company has fallen into the fucking toilet. So there's no storytelling there anymore. Edge and Christian promo was kind of weird. But I do like that they're showing reluctance to team with each other. So then obviously, we talked about Killswitch Luchasaurus. It's good to see him back. So yeah, that was overall, that was one of the only things really on this show that kind of made any sense, to be honest with you. FTR versus Brodito. This match was freaking great. 30-minute time limit draw. You knew near the last 5 minutes where this was going. It was kind of illogical the way that they got to the end of this. But yeah, I hate that you go to a time limit draw in a tournament final. You spent all the weeks. It's just didn't make any sense. The way that this Hangman MJF segment went was really odd. Hangman comes out there. Tony Schiavone basically directs this whole segment and basically is like, "Hey, I'm told that MJF's got a message for you." I was like, "What the fuck is this? The fuck kind of production is this?" And so MJF basically threatens to light Mark Briscoe on fire. Has to give him 3 conditions. He doesn't have to use his contract. Hangman eventually caves in, and listen, it's literally MJF being MJF, but they really undid a lot of the stuff there, and I didn't like that. I'll say this. Somebody in the chat's saying they missed out on Cody Punk. We're going to get Cody Punk into WrestleMania, maybe as soon as next year. The one feud that they really missed out on that could have really lit a fire in this company, CM Punk and FTR versus the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. CMFTR versus the Elite? Are you kidding me? After what happened backstage, turning that into a real-life storyline. But the word was, Young Bucks didn't want to play ball. That's on them. That's on them. Cody got out of there because he couldn't put up with Tony Khan's bullshit, and he signed an NDA, and a lot of people are mad that Cody keeps opening his mouth. Cody can say whatever the fuck he wants. He can say whatever the fuck he wants. Until the truth comes out, we're just going to have to, but yeah, CMFTR versus the Elite would have been a money feud. They would have printed money. And I'm not saying that would have rivaled, Raw at that point, but they missed a huge opportunity coming out of Brawl Out there. And then the main event, actually Ricochet looked like a total geek. He got hit with a steel chair at the end of it, and it was just a total thing. Athena, Mercedes Moné versus Toni Storm and Alex Windsor. It's got 16 minutes, so more than I can say for, the women. They actually got treated better, but this was the only women's segment on this entire show. No reaction whatsoever for Mercedes Moné. You got 8,000 people, and nobody gives a shit about Mercedes Moné and her 8 titles. By the way, she's got a title match on Friday. She's probably going to win a 9th. God help us. God help us. She's a great wrestler, man, but nobody gives a shit about this anymore. Nobody gives a shit about this. So yeah, this was a pretty good match, but then at the end of this, Alex Windsor, blind tag Athena. Jesse's from Chicago. Jesse's from Chicago. Jesse was wearing CM Punk shirts for a while. I don't know what Jesse's deal is. Chi-Town smart. Jesse can sometimes be a little bit worrisome, but I do respect what those guys do. Those guys are real. Even if you don't like them or you don't like how some of the things they say, they're themselves. But yeah, blind tag gets Mercedes. I listen. The whole concept of this match was stupid because Toni Storm gets taken out in this match with a pile driver on the steel steps, which was just insane in my eyes. So Toni Storm's not losing. She's already been pinned. Mercedes barely loses anyway. Athena's got a championship match for the world championship on Sunday, so she ain't losing. So by process of elimination, Alex Windsor was going to be the one to take the pinfall. But the way that they did it was what bothered me. Blind tag, she tries to put somebody in the sharpshooter scorpion deathlock, and then she's just looking around like not, as the referee, Aubrey Edwards, is basically saying, no, you can't do this. And she's just looking at her like saying, what the fuck are you talking about? And then Athena takes forever to hit her finish, and that's the match. Listen, listen, I totally get this. Like, the narrative about Mercedes is that, like, hey, Rev Pro, everybody wants to put their titles on her. At a certain point, as a person, you've got to say to yourself, this isn't doing anything for me. This is all ego. This is all ego. Yeah, the promoters could just tell her to fuck off, but Mercedes is going there, giving them publicity, but she's carrying their titles around, but it doesn't mean anything. They're not going to sell any more tickets. It doesn't mean anything. So, yeah, the pile driver on the steps was pretty gnarly. Toni Storm sold it pretty nasty, but I have no reason to believe whatsoever that Athena's winning the championship on Sunday. They had no plan for her going into All In Texas, so they put her in the gauntlet. They had her win, and then they had her cash it in immediately. And despite pinning the champion, they're literally just going to have her cash it in on the first pay-per-view, and they're going to have her lose to Toni Storm. And she's going to go right back to Ring of Honor, right back to where she was, not underutilized, underappreciated, whatever. And it's bullshit. It's bullshit. Fresh, go ahead. Drop. All right. What do you need me to explain to you? I'm waiting on your comment. Well, yeah. Listen. Mercedes is absolutely beating Jade's record. That's the only reason she's holding it. Like, Mercedes is going to win the champion. Is going to retain the championship. They had Persephone out there. They put somebody from Stardom that I've never heard of, and then Alex Windsor. Listen, Mercedes is retaining, even if it's a four-way. Mercedes is retaining the TBS title because until she passes Jade's record, and I think that's another month or so that they're going to pass. No, this is going to be okay. So, Fresh. So I went over this earlier. So Clash in Paris is going to be the last pay-per-view that the last main roster PLE that you're going to have on Peacock. Saturday night's main event in NXT will remain on Peacock moving forward. That's the understanding that I have. So WrestlePalooza will be the first show exclusively on ESPN. Now, if you're international or if you want to go get a VPN, you can watch it on Netflix. But that's where we're going with this. WrestlePalooza will be on ESPN. It'll be on the ESPN platform. I have ESPN Plus. If you guys are sports fans, it's actually a really good investment. You get access to a lot of different things. The NFL Network, I think, is going over there. So they're morphing a lot of stuff into that product. So listen, $30 if you're a sports fan isn't that bad of an investment. And if you have an issue with that, going to find a VPN isn't necessarily that bad of an investment. I think you're spending like $5 a month. And then if you already have the Netflix subscription for, Raw, go change your location and, you can watch the pay-per-views on Netflix. And that saves you, another like $25. So I don't think it's that bad of an investment. I don't like how this has come about where they basically announced it like a few weeks ago, and now all of a sudden we thought this was going to be at WrestleMania. But hey, just kidding. We're starting it in September. So it's a little bit screwed up. But my understanding of the whole situation is that WrestlePalooza will be the first show exclusively in the United States on ESPN on their new app. If you have a cable provider, use your credentials. You'll be able to get through it immediately. So that's a neat little deal. That's a great point. TNA could end up being on Peacock. That's an interesting idea because NXT, their PLEs are going to be there. So PHX. It's a great investment. Like I had ESPN Plus for the last handful of years because I work in sports media and a lot of the access you need premium access. Also, I'm a big NFL fan and I grew up loving NFL Primetime. That's an ESPN Plus exclusive. It's a good investment. And now with them adding the NFL, you get access to a bunch of games. Like you get the PLEs and stuff. I don't think it's that terrible of an investment. And if you don't want to go for the ESPN service, like I said, you can save money. You can once you get past that, like you just get a VPN. You can go search a VPN. Like I'm not up on technology, but it seems pretty simple. You buy it. I think it's like $5 or so bucks, depending on which one you get. And there's promo codes with a bunch of these other streamers. I don't have sponsors. If I did, I would probably recommend you guys to go get a VPN too with the promo code, but I'm not at that level yet. Go find a promo code, Salamonster, JD, or whoever. Like, go find a Sean Ross Sapp, even if a lot of people don't like him. Like, go use that, and you'll be able to find yourself something. So, but yeah, yeah. If you're a Hulu Live Sports, yes. As far as I know, if you I bundled it, yeah. There's also a good point, yeah. And if you guys have recommendations, send them to me on social media or drop them in the chat here about how to access free VPNs, where you can easily access them. But like I've heard Nord and there's some other ones out there. You just got to change your location to international. Or I'm not going to promote this, but there are sites out there where you can go stream it. And occasionally I will use these streams to watch the AEW shows or, potentially watch some other things across, whether it be SmackDown early or whatever. Yeah, listen, some of you guys may be going back to the olden days of when pay-per-views were $50. That might be just the way that this goes. But again, I don't think it's everybody was panicking at the way it looked. I don't think it's going to be as bad as it is. I have YouTube TV. Hopefully that's going to be agreed to. But like I said, I already have ESPN Plus, so it's not the worst thing in the world to deal with. Yeah. But yeah, that really takes care of a lot of what's going on here. Okay. You watch SmackDown on Hulu. Okay, cool. I don't have Hulu Live TV. I just have Hulu, the streaming app, so to watch shows and whatnot. So I don't have live TV because, like I said, I have YouTube TV. Yeah, if you have cable, then listen, if you have cable provider, you should be able to get it. I think most cable providers have agreed to it. YouTube TV, as of right now, you're kind of shut out of luck, but it is what it is. So, so yeah, I've been on here about 50 minutes. We barely even really talked about Dynamite. I have done prediction shows. I did SummerSlam. I might do Forbidden Door. I'm probably not going to be live for Forbidden Door. I'll probably do a reaction thing after I watch it. I got some family stuff over the weekend, so I'm not going to be watching Forbidden Door live. So that'll be something that I'll need to react to. Like I said, the show is kind of like, kind of there. And, a lot of it kind of seems pretty predictable, but, I'll probably catch it. But I might do a prediction show, and I'll probably do something for Clash in Paris too next, because that's going to be a rare Sunday show for WWE. That's not a 2-day show. Ace, fire away whenever you got a question. Any more questions? Like, I'll be on here for a few more minutes because we're going to get to close to an even hour. Okay. Do I think WWE is being petty with all these deals and such? Does Tony Khan deserve this since he did call them out multiple times? Listen, at the end of the day, this is business. At the end of the day, this is business. I do think that this is petty. And I do think what WWE is doing is very greedy. They don't really necessarily need to do it. And I would prefer that they would focus on their own product. Because I think a lot of what's happening right now, I think is hurting the overall main roster shows. But WWE, clearly, Triple H specifically, are not very thrilled with, AEW raising the price of talent in the marketplace. And, if you want to say something positive about Tony Khan, he has, allowed wrestlers to get paid more than, what WWE was paying. In that respect, I think that's great. But he also, kind of just hoards talent, and he's like a nepo baby who's just kind of spoiled to just throw money at every toy that he can find. Yeah, I just think it's really petty. They're using TNA as like a pawn. And TNA is not going to beat TNA would be interesting, but I don't think that them going head to head with AEW is really going to work out the way that they want to. And I think TNA is just being used to, kind of just take away any little bit of, talking points about, WWE or AEW, excuse me. Cena Lesnar main event. We're assuming it's the main event. This is interesting because you've got potential matches that you could do with Brock Lesnar. I'm not necessarily thrilled that he's back. I get it. He's kind of a draw and people, think he's entertaining, but there's still some legal stuff, even if he's not technically committed a crime. And WWE doesn't need him to tell stories. I get it. John Cena's got a story with him. If it were me, I'd probably have Cena go over, but if your plan is to have Brock Lesnar potentially face people like Braun Breaker and Gunther and whoever, then Brock's got to win. I really don't see a value in. Listen, the match is going to be fine, but I really don't see a value in seeing it anyway. This is just pure money and greed, and hey, maybe John Cena wanted this, but who knows? I love Ace Austin. I actually think that's a great signing for AEW. But Luke, you are absolutely right, and this is a big problem that I have with AEW. Ace Austin is basically every single other guy in AEW, and he is just going to be drowning on Collision. He is a spectacular performer. He actually has a really unique look for a smaller guy, and he can really. If you guys have ever seen his finishing move, the fold, it's badass. Guy could have been the TNA champion back during COVID. He's a talented guy, man, and still relatively young. He's a talented young man. He is a talented dude, and I think that he's a good acquisition. But much like Josh Alexander, like you said, Luke, Josh Alexander's just a guy. They're just a guy. All these guys, work rate guys, really don't. And Ace could probably have some personality, but he's just a work rate guy. He doesn't do anything to stand out. He just does a bunch of cool moves. He's a smaller guy. I don't think it's going to work out, man. And it sucks because, he probably wasn't going to go to WWE in the first place, but it is what it is, man. Yeah, it's all about greed. It's all about it's. I don't even necessarily think it's jealousy. I think some of it's just pettiness because Triple H is mad, with TKO is kind of mad with the wrestler talent rates are going up. Some of the snipes that Tony has made. The Harvey Weinstein comment. Yeah, Josh Alexander in TNA was fucking great. I don't know if you guys saw one of his last matches there was with Joe Hendry, and they did the fake cup spot, which was fucking great. Fucking great. Josh Alexander, when given the right material, is a great talent. Now he's just like the fourth or fifth most important guy in the Don Callis family. At minimum, he's the fourth because you got Fletcher, Takeshita, and Okada. So that's three. And then what? Probably Josh Alexander after that. So it's just, man, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing with Josh Alexander. It's unfortunate. Okay, so we got about 30 seconds here. I'm gonna sign off here because I've been doing this for about an hour. Thank you guys so much. You guys have been very lively in the chat. Yeah, and Luke, you're right. I think the reason why they brought Brock back was, the dream matches that, they wanted to have the dream matches that they wanted to have with Gunther and maybe Braun Breaker kind of sets the stage for that. But at the same time, they didn't need it. Okay, I'll answer this one right here and then I'll go. Will there be a women's blood and guts? I honestly think that there's a really strong possibility that they do one. And maybe part of the reason why they're doing this 5-on-5 steel cage match is as a de facto blood and guts, even if it's not, to basically emphasize, hey, when they do go do a blood and guts match, that the women will be involved. That being said, I don't care about it. The women that'll be involved in it will be interesting, but AEW has not done a good job of making me or anyone else really care about their women's division. I mean, they told you with what it would. I appreciate that, Ace. Go recommend me to your friends. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, Mortos, kayfabe suing people. All right. Okay, so we're past an hour here. Great stream, everybody. Thanks for being lively in the chat. We'll hopefully do this more often on Wednesdays because it seems like Wednesdays is the most popular day. A lot of people love to talk Dynamite. And yeah, thanks everybody for watching. I'll see you guys soon.